in Japan, it's very hard, borderline impossible to get fired. Like, I'm trying right now, and it's like
you're trying right now to get fired.
Yeah, I'm trying so hard, man. I'm trying so hard to get fired. I'm Japanese enough to know I'm not Japanese, but I'm Japanese enough to know how the average Japanese person perceives me, and you gotta navigate and code switch. However you do, you gotta survive, right?
Welcome, Alex,
to
the
Max.
Live in Tokyo podcast. This is Alex Ito, everybody. He is my friend in Japan. We met in Tokyo maybe like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 5.
Was that long ago? Yeah. He does a lot of things. He's worked in Japanese companies. We want to talk a little bit about what it's like to work in a Japanese company for people who want to know the deets. We're going to go pretty like real. We're going to go real here.
Oh, yeah, always.
A lot of people know that working in a Japanese company can be a toxic situation. Sometimes it's really fun. Sometimes they make you do radio taiso. You gotta do the exercise. Have you ever had to do that at a company?
I haven't had to do that, but I've had to do chore.
Chore.
Where you like all gather in the morning. And it's like, hello everyone, good morning, and then they like all the departments get together. None of us have anything to do with each other, and we just sit around in a circle, be like, we're working today. It's like,
have you had to do toban?
No, I've never done toban.
Oh, toban was like my least favorite. So I worked at a Japanese company. So for people who don't know, I worked at a Japanese company as a contractor salesperson. I worked in an office for a bit, and I had to do toban, toban is also what you have in like Japanese schools, and you basically have to clean up. You have to clean the school. You have to clean the toilets. So in toban in a work office is you gotta clean the toilets and organize stuff like dust. And I just remember hating having to do toban. Yeah. I was like, why am I working to do this?
We have a custodian.
Yeah,
you'll see them working.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
we had a custodian.
They still make you do it. It's just like, wait, what? Like,
I mean, maybe some of it's to like respect your office space, but it's
already clean.
I think it's Japanese like bunka, Japanese culture for cleaning your house. Like if you do martial arts, cleaning the dojo, just permeating into the office space.
Which I mean, like it'd be cool if you didn't have a custodian, but like most companies have custodians, so it's like a very arbitrary. Like it feels phony. You know what I mean?
Well, I just know I didn't.
For like bigger companies.
I just know I didn't like cleaning the toilets. So I was like, why am I? I don't think this was in the job description.
Yeah. No,
but it sounds like I'm complaining. I did it, but it was just new to me because I'm from the States.
You're so open-minded. I hated it.
Yeah.
I was like, I ain't doing it.
We haven't done an introduction. Can you introduce yourself though, real quick, to this camera for everybody?
こんにちは、伊藤アレクサンダーと申します。29歳。アメリカの黒人のハーフと日本人のハーフになります。よろしくお願いします。
お願いします。And one time in English?
My name is Alexander Shin Ito. I'm half black, half Japanese from born in Tokyo, raised in Cali, refugeed back to Osaka. Nice to meet you.
Do you call yourself a Kansai Jin? Are you?
I'm not, but I am now. Okay. My mom was sad because I spoke in Osaka BANG without realizing it. And she was like, oh, my boy's from Kansai. And I'm like, you've lived in America more than Japan now. Like, what are you complaining about? Like, she had like this weird blow up of like national pride for being Japanese or like being from Tokyo.
Oh, she's Tokyo.
Yeah, she's Tokyo. Yeah, she's super Tokyo. She was born in she was raised next to Yokota Air Force Base, which is where I was born. And her English is like perfectly fine and everything. So
I know a lot of people know in Japan, but maybe people who are watching this don't know that Osakans, Kansai people, are the comedians of Japan.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Why is that? Let's go into that. Osaka people versus Tokyo people.
Okay, so Tokyo people, I don't think it's a Tokyo people thing. I think it's a big city thing. You know what I mean? Because like when I went to New York too, like no one had chill. And New Yorkers are cool, but no one had chill. Like I'm West Coast through and through. It's just like Tokyo is a city first more than it's a Japanese place in my opinion, because it's just way too many people. It's a hustle and bustle place, and you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta get where you're going. You know who you know, and it's very hard to expand for a lot of people. Sometimes not. I don't think it is, but like a lot of people have complained about that. Osaka is like a third, if not like a quarter of the size. Osaka is actually walkable. You can walk all day in Osaka and you'll actually see everything. Versus Tokyo, it's like could you imagine walking from one end of Tokyo all the way to the other? Like,
it would take you a couple hours. 3 hours.
Multiple, and like the streets are all winding and stuff. Like there's like, and it's all like kind of indiscriminate like skyscrapers, you know what I mean, to a certain degree. Osaka is much more low key in that sense, and there's just more Japanese stuff there. But that's like Kansai in general, I think.
Why? But why the comedians? Why is that why? Do you know about Osaka Bang, by the way?
I don't know Osaka Bang.
Oh, you don't know Osaka Bang?
Where's Osaka
so
Bang?
that's where you can just point at somebody, like you got a gun, and just be like, bang.
Okay. I didn't know that's what that was called, but yeah, that is a very real thing. Yeah.
Can you explain this? What is Osaka Bang?
Osaka Bang is the notion that you can point at any old person or anyone from Osaka, and if you point and shoot bang, they'll act like they got hit with a gunshot.
撃たれたふりをするよね。
Yeah, so ちゃんとやられた!
やられた!
Yeah, they'll go with a bit. Like you can tell very quickly who is like hardcore Osakan by if they can recognize a bit and then like they just write it.
They all recognize a bit. Every time I've met someone from Osaka, I'm like, like Kansai no hito, like you're from Osaka. And then they'll be like, so desu ne, and they're like prideful about it, and I'm just like, bang, and they're like, なんで知ってるの? みたいな. Why do you know about this?
No, my version is the Matrix. Like I always like slow down. I'm like, oh.
How do people learn about this? What is the explanation for it?
I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that's so stereotyped and ingrained that now it's like if you don't know it, you're like kind of not Osakan. So everyone checks themselves and they're like, dude, you're from Osaka. Like all the Osakans will point out who's not funny. And they'll be like, he's not Osakan because he's not funny. And this boy will be like born and raised there. It's kind of messed up, but they like bully people into like having a sense of humor.
That's true because actually I know Tokyo people are like, if you're from Osaka, aren't you supposed to be funny?
Yeah. Osaka-jin no nande omoshirou kunai no? It's just like, oh, jeez, you killed them, dude.
But like Tokyo people are known for not being funny.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously people, you can't generalize everyone. There's some people who you do the same thing, bang, and they'll get it in Tokyo.
I think it's just one of those very Japanese things of like, it's not like pride in where they're from, but because of where like they're like, because of people being like where they're from, right? They kind of use it as an excuse of like, oh, because I'm Osakan, like I like this is why I'm rowdy, or because I'm like, despite being Osakan, like I'm not that funny. Like they'll use that a lot. Like 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 Japanese people always say like Nihonjin dakara, and it's like the worst excuse. But like also like my favorite Kansai ben is shirankedo, right? Shirankedo.
Yeah, I don't know, but
yeah. No. So yeah, but you use it at the very end, right?
Shirankedo.
Yeah. So Japanese people
explain
right?
what it means.
So shirankedo is basically, but what the hell do I know, right? Which is like, in the most kind way to say it, like it's just relinquishing all responsibility from having an opinion. Like they were like oh, like what should I do with my boyfriend? It's like, oh, you should definitely like dump him and like get with this person. Shirankedo. It's like, yeah, but like I don't know, like what the fuck do I know? Like
it's funny. It's like literally that meme where you might give somebody all this life advice, financial advice, and you're like, I don't know though.
Yeah, I don't know though. Yeah, I'm not a financial expert though, so like
Shirankedo.
Yeah. I love shirankedo so much.
People all over the world have finally discovered how amazing it is to travel to Japan. That's why I'm happy to share that today's sponsor, Klook, is making traveling throughout Japan easier and more cost-effective than ever. Klook is an experience-based booking platform with thousands of destinations around the world. If you're traveling to Asia, you need Klook. Many people who come to Japan might struggle navigating their way through Tokyo, but Klook has made things easy with their Klook Pass for Greater Tokyo. Klook Pass for Greater Tokyo includes passes to various locations around Tokyo. The way it works is that you can book one pass for multiple choices and save up to 48% compared to buying individual tickets for certain attractions. This can be a very easy way to conveniently book places all on one location on Klook's platform, instead of having to navigate through some of the very confusing websites that Japan is notorious for. If you've been to Japan before, I'm sure you've experienced trying to book through the English translation of a Japanese website, and it is not very fun. But with the Klook Pass for Greater Tokyo, we can do things, for example, like book a ticket using this pass for a Warner Brothers studio tour, an entry ticket to Team Lab Borderless, or a ticket to Tokyo Disney Resort, or multiple other types of tickets totaling at 39 attractions. Before Klook even reached out to me, I actually did use their service before to book tickets to Team Labs, and I can say without a doubt, they had the best prices and the best time slots. Klook also has an app that makes it super easy to make any booking. To use the Klook Pass for Greater Tokyo, make sure to check the link in the description and start booking your Tokyo activities today. But yeah, going back to the whole Osaka, like, yeah, Nihonjin dakara, which means because I'm Japanese, I am like this, or because I'm Japanese, I can't
be like this. Yeah.
And I know the biggest one that was used for me is like every time I'd work out or like go to the gym and they'd be like, oh, like your arms are big or whatever. I'm like, oh, but everyone can do this. Like, you know, you just got to go to the workout. I mean, some of it is DNA. Yes, I know. But still, they're like,
some good DNA, man.
Thank you. But like they would say, you know, demo, Nihonjin dakara, I can't, like, I'm not able to.
Yeah. And the thing, and this kind of relates to, like, you know, the office style, like the office life and culture too. But like, I swear to God, every time I heard it, it was an excuse. Like, it was always used in a way to hold themselves back. And it was like a fallback thing, like, oh, it's like, I can't because I'm Japanese type of thing. It's just like,
especially for like negotiation or like trying to get something out.
Dude, negotiating pay is the worst.
Yeah, you're just like, I feel bad about it, but
yeah, it's like oh, more. You know, in Japan we don't talk about pay. I'm like, okay, I still need to get paid. So like, how much? It's like,
I legit think people don't really ask for raises in Japan.
No, they don't.
And also, there's no real. I feel like in the States, you have these meetings or you may have a meeting where you ask for a raise. You organize a meeting so that you can ask for more pay, or after a year or whatever, or they'll actually just offer like, hey, you've been working here for a year, we're gonna bump up your salary. Japan is like, hey, sorry, we didn't make enough money, so we can't do a bonus this year, but. Keep working,
and then you'll have some smooth talking tall dude who's been told he's ikemen all his life, just coming in, like barely project managing anything, or he's like a salesperson, and then he gets fired for like a sexual harassment scandal and like takes all the money, and you're just like, what did I work hard for?
Wait,
that's so common.
But you're saying you did say he gets fired. I feel like
that was like so much, right?
In Japan, it's very hard to get fired.
Actually, yeah, you're right. I take it back. He doesn't get fired. He disappears. No, in Japan, it's like very hard, borderline impossible to get fired. Like, I'm trying right now, and it's like,
you're trying right now to get fired.
Yeah, I'm trying so hard, man. I'm trying so hard to get fired.
You work at a. Is it a Japanese company?
It is a Japanese company. It's a Japanese startup.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'm trying to get fired.
Why are you trying to get fired?
Just because, you know, like, it's just startup bullshit. Like, you know, like, I've been there a while. I'm old. I'm considered old. I'm 29. And everyone under me is like 20. The boss is 26. And like everyone else is like in their early 20s. And I'm like fed up with like the nonsense. Yeah. Like, you know, everyone's a hard worker and everything. But, you know, I'm like, I got to do my own thing.
So why don't you just quit?
So if you quit, then you can't collect on the unemployment insurance for up to 2 months, because then they have to go into an investigation of whether it was a legitimate reason to quit or not. So unlike the States, right, where if you get fired, you can't collect unemployment, right? In Japan, if you quit, then they're like, oh, so you quit on your own volition, so you got a plan, right? Why should the government like support you? You know, but that's also why there's so many power harassment cases, right? Pawahara, because so many companies, it's a bad rap. It doesn't look good because, you know, the 80s and everything, like, too many people got abused that they're like, oh, we're going to make it hard for people to get fired. But then that's kind of backfired now to a certain degree, where companies, well, they're like, well, if we fire them, we look bad, so let's just get them to quit. So, like, we won't tell them when there's meetings, or we won't tell them when there's this or that.
Passive-aggressive.
It's super passive-aggressive, but the thing is, that doesn't work on me, because this is the second time I've been kind of put in this scenario where I'm like, please fire me so, you know, I can...
You told them, please fire me.
Yeah, I said, please fire me. And then they're like, oh, that doesn't really look good on us. And I was like, we can play this game of chicken. Like, I'll not show up. Like, that is fine.
Do you know how funny it is to tell your employer, like, I want to be fired? And they're like... Yeah. We don't want to fire you.
Yeah, and I'm like, do it.
and then you're like, I'm not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like, well, we don't really feel comfortable about paying you for that. And I was like, okay, you should fire me then. And there's like, yeah, but then it's not going to look good. それでもね、ちょっとあんまり, and I was like, okay, well, time is a moving. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
You're in a Mexican standoff right now.
Yeah, no, it's a Mexican standoff, and I have nothing to lose by standing. Like, they have maybe a gun, and I have like a tank and like a battalion. I was like, I don't give a fuck.
So you're currently not working. You're actually not working, but still under employment.
Yes.
And you're literally just...
Some people say that's like golden goose, but like, I don't like to It is a Mexican standoff thing, but at this. If this like lasts for like another month, I'm just gonna quit at this point, and like, cause like I need to start working and stuff, right? But see, that's the thing. If that happens, they won, and you know it happens. But at the same point, like I'm not like I can't like I don't want to take advantage of this. Like why would I want to deal with people that won't help me? You know what I mean?
It's so
like,
wild though, because you could just stay and keep getting paid, right?
Yeah, but then like again, it's a startup, right? So you never know when it's gonna go up and down. That's the difference between the small company culture versus big.
Right.
When I was at a big company, I was at a company, the marketing firm that had around 300 people or so. I didn't do shit. I didn't do shit. I didn't do shit for 6 months. 6 months.
6 months?
6 months. Do you know what I did?
What?
First thing in the morning, there's a way to make Reddit posts look like an Excel sheet. So I did that. And then I started like I would just early in the morning, right after Chore, right when everyone's like gathered, I would just like tell them the news. Like from around the world, because like I think the internet is like 3 or 5% written in Japanese, which is like wild when you consider like humanities, like Japanese population versus like the rest of humanity. English is 50%, dude. I'm super dumb, or I was dumber back then, but like, and I was like young. I was like 30 years younger than everyone, right? So I'm like, I have so much more easy access to information than all of you guys.
Yes.
It was wild.
This is what I say is so difficult. Like the information spread in Japan is so difficult because it has to be. Well,
it's like slow for one.
It has to be translated. It has to be translated correctly, and then a lot of times it's maybe they're missing nuances. And like you said, 3%. It's so much easier if you speak English. If you need to find like a scholarly article, you can go to Google Scholar and just find so many things written in English. But Japanese people, I feel like if you don't speak English, you're very limited. Obviously, like it's not just Japan. There's any Korea, I would assume as well.
Well, I mean, like I speak Japanese, like Nihongo wa zenzen, like I speak Japanese fluently, but like, dude, I can't read to save my life. I've been here my entire adult life, borderline illiterate, working at companies.
Yeah.
That's wild.
At 6 months, you didn't work though. You working at companies.
Okay. So, what I learned about bigger Japanese companies is that a lot of the work doesn't get started till after lunch.
So what are they doing in the morning?
They're trying to wake up or freaking cure their hangovers, man.
Because I know some people that would go out drinking. So, for example, somebody I knew, Japanese woman, worked at Suntory. It's an alcohol company. They would go out on like a Wednesday party. As in, go to karaoke, drink all you can drink. They get out at 5, maybe sleep a little bit in the karaoke booth, and go straight to work in the same clothes.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's
madness.
Madness.
It's not efficient either.
It's not efficient. It's masked as work because it's like, hey, you got to hang out with your coworkers after work. This is why Japanese productivity, if you look it up, there's a statistic actually where the GDP of Japan is very high, but the amount of hours put in to make the GDP is astronomically high.
Yeah, it's like ridiculously high. Yeah.
Yes, because people might just be sleeping in the office. So I legit had I didn't see this myself, but my old boss said he worked at a company where if he was very sleepy and didn't sleep because he was working all night, the boss would still have him come in the next day and say, just sleep in the toilet.
Yeah.
Sleep in the bathroom. Yeah. And I was like, this doesn't fundamentally make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
If you're going to be sleeping, you need to get good sleep.
Yeah.
So why don't you just go in your bed?
So what I started doing,
before I think that's because Japan has this image that if you're at work, you're working hard.
Yeah.
A lot of people think Japanese people are very hard workers. I think they just spend a lot of time at work.
Yeah. Oh, no. And I can illustrate this because, again, what I started to recognize was most shit did not get done or started, rather, till after lunch. Because, again, they're curing hangovers, shooting the shit. We have all the time in the world, right? Except for the OLs, like the office ladies are like they have them doing the dumbest shit. Like they'll be like cleaning. Like this woman will have like a bachelor's degree and she's like barely a secretary. Like they had a lady sharpen pencils, like dumb shit.
Was it the automatic one where she like manually doing it?
Yeah, she was manually doing that and like fucking. I mean, like the issue with paper, everything's freaking still printed out and everything. right? And then I would ask some of these ladies too, like, cause we were near the same age. I was like, why do you work here? And she's like, oh, I like being on the top floor of an office building. It just feels so like, I just feel like such an adult. And I was like, okay, I can't relate to you, man. Like, yeah, I was like, oh man, she was cute too. Like, this is painful. Like, I can't deal with you.
Which company was this?
Yeah, I can't say the name, but it was a creative agency that we did like marketing and stuff like that. The CEO hired me directly because he thought I was funny. That was it. He's like, this is a good diversity hire. Legit what he said.
He said diversity.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you don't need a visa? Perfect.
Japanese guy?
Yeah, Japanese guy.
So what did he say in Japanese? Like, how do you say diversity hire?
Yeah, well, okay, he didn't explicitly say, because I said, like, I'm a good diversity hire, right? I was like, なんだっけ、国際観を持っていけるやつ、人材だと思いますし、まあ、so I said, you know, like, I think I could, you know, bring a little bit of, like, internationalness to the company. I think I'm, like, fairly well spoken, or I can speak fairly well. And, I don't need a visa, because I am Japanese. And he was like, yeah, cool, chill. And he hired me on the spot. And then, but it was such a weird, loose company like that this company is definitely an outlier. But again, this company had offices all around Japan. I was trying to make initiatives. I was like, hey, like, we could do, I'll do like an introduction to English, like, you know, marketing stuff. So I was like teaching them like memeって何か知ってますか? I was like trying to get them to learn what memes were and how to like go viral. It's the dumbest shit.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, but like,
do you think it's because you're mixed Japanese you can get away with stuff like this, or because you speak English? Like,
oh yeah, no, definitely, yeah. I'm Japanese enough to know I'm not Japanese, but I'm Japanese enough to know how the average Japanese person perceives me, and you know, you gotta navigate and code switch. You know, however you do, you gotta survive, right? So
right. I actually have the similar experience where, because I don't look Japanese. So let me gives this some context. I have a friend who's Japanese American, looks very Japanese. Issei, you know him.
Yeah.
And he can't really get away with some of the stuff that I do, where it's like he does like to joke and things like that, but because he's fully Japanese looking, it just throws people into this sense that he is Japanese, so he should act Japanese. Yeah. But because I don't look specifically Japanese, it's already like an immediate, like, oh, we have this like chotto omoshiroi hito. We have like someone who's kind of funny, and he's American, but he's actually half Japanese, so he can speak Japanese, and it puts you in a interesting position.
Yeah. At first, I was distraught because I was like, no, but I'm Japanese. I'm trying so hard. I practice kanji. And then eventually I was like, no, the people that are going to perceive me or put me in this box, or, you know, again, like we were referring to earlier, right? When they use it as a means of control, right? Like, oh, Nihonjin dakara, because I'm Japanese, I can do this, or I can't do that. Or because you're not Japanese, you can do this, you can do that, right? Look, everyone, you know, you've met enough like mixed people, and like myself too, right? Like everyone goes through their own experience, everyone figures it out in their own way. Me, I laugh it off now, and I'm just like whenever I meet an ignorant person, I'm obviously me too, but like whenever I meat an ignorant person that is just ignorant and that's it, I'm just like, okay, like I know how to deal with this. Like I'm not gonna get bent out of shape because you know that's brain power lost, right?
I'm guessing you mean by, you know, when you maybe are in a Japanese company and somebody kind of treats you as not Japanese, and so like they might not exactly work with you the same
how about this
way.
for you? Did they ever? You have a Japanese last name, right?
Yeah.
Did they ever call you by that?
No.
Exactly. Exactly, man.
So
dude, I have the most generic name, man.
Every mixed Japanese person probably relates with this experience. If you work at a Japanese company, you're not called by your last name San. You're called by your first name San, especially if you have a English.
Oh, you got a son?
Yeah.
I didn't even get a son.
So you're just Areksu.
Areksu.
So I'm Maxu, or Maxu-san.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a lot of times just Maxu.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give it to them that Max is like kind of a cool thing to say in Japanese. Like Maxu, in Japanese, only really means like maximum. It's not a name.
Yeah.
It just means maximum. So it actually sounds cooler, or it's more memorable and impressionable.
Yeah.
But I do have a friend her name's Alicia, and her last name is Japanese. Fumi, no, I forgot her last name, but she has a Japanese last name, worked at a Japanese firm, and she was kind of annoyed of how they called everyone else by their last name San, and only her was Alicia.
Yeah, exactly.
Alicia.
Yeah.
And I think this is maybe what some mixed Japanese people might not like, is especially like I'm from the US, right? But if I was from Japan and this same type of thing was happening, I could understand why people are like, why am I always the different one, right?
Because you look different.
Yeah. And this is just like the acceptance phase.
Yeah.
You eventually have to just accept, like, I just look different. You can ask to be called by your last name, I'm sure. But it's like just an immediate, you enter a Japanese company and you get first named, which in Japanese culture, that's kind of like,
It's pretty rude.
you know, yobiste.
Yeah, it's pretty rude.
So yobiste is where you don't use like the formal like san at the end of something, or chan or whatever.
Yeah.
That's yobiste. So generally, if you don't say san at the end, it's meaning that you're on the same level.
Yeah.
But if you say san at the end, like Max-san, Alex-san, you're kind of like putting them above you and respecting them.
Yeah.
So a lot of mixed people might work at a Japanese company and get just yobisted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the one place I didn't get yobisted was in the smoking room, is what I started to recognize. Now, I don't smoke, right? But I noticed that the same people were always in the smoking room, and it was around lunchtime, right? Referring back to earlier. I was like, man, these guys are always smoking. These guys are lazy as shit. How? Because they also had the nicest suits. They smelled like shit, but they had the nicest suits. And so I was kind of curious about that. So I started going in the smoking room. I didn't smoke, right? And they started noticing that. They're like, why are you always in here, right? Alex っていつもなんかここにいる金室にいるよね。なんでやねんって言って。I was like, so I was like, you guys are always here. I've noticed that the smokers are the ones that are the most stressed. And typically that means you guys care the most, or you make the most money and have the most responsibility. And then, one guy, Nakai-san, he was just like, お前おもろいね。一緒にちょっときっとこの提案取れないけど一緒に行こうかって言って。Yeah. And then that's how I got my first senpai. So then Nakai-san, this one guy, he laughed when I said that. He said, you're pretty fucking funny. You know what? We're going to do this bid. We're going to compete for this bid. We're probably not going to get it, but why don't you come along? And that's how I got my first proper senpai, who like actually like was trying to teach me the ropes. How he was trying to figure out how I could navigate that space and be useful to the company. And then like, because there a lot of young people in Japan, like the turnover rate now in a lot of companies is so fucking high, because like it's not like the good old days where if you tough it out, you'll definitely have like a retirement plan. And dude, yen's at 150. What the fuck?
It's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's good if you're American watching this, your dollars are worth.
Come to Japan and sign up for a personal tour. I'll give you but I want to get paid in dollars.
we need dollars.
We need
right
dollars.
Now,
we need dollar dues, man.
Dollars right now. Literally going to America because I also make yen.
Yeah.
And then spending yen, I was like, this is the worst. Going back, what were you talking about?
Yeah. So basically, that's how I got my first proper Japanese senpai or like superior, right? And
the good old days, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The good old days.
Can I want to interject and just say that maybe people don't know about this, but in the 80s, this is known as the bubble jidai, baburu jidai, or the bubble era of Japan.
It sounds like a One Piece thing.
Baburu jidai.
Baburu jidai.
Going back to the bubble jidai, bubble era in Japan. You can look this up later, but it was basically Japan went through the war in World War II. Things were very bad for the 50s. A lot of Japanese people, I guess like Japanese men had to really put in the work. So they had to put in the work in the 50s, 60s, and things were just starting to finally get better in the 70s. And then the 80s was just booming.
Just like cocaine everywhere.
And the whole bubble era, it all popped in the 90s, which basically means since the 80s or 90s, Japan has been in a deflation, kind of like permanent recession. Basically, all the housing prices went up. It was basically like Bitcoin. Everything shot up in the 80s. And I think the yen was actually cheap.
That was super cheap. It was like 300 yen to like the dollar.
Yeah, 300 yen to the dollar, which is like...
That's why there's so many military brats born in the 90s.
Yeah.
They had all these dumb military dudes stunting on the Japanese girls.
Another thing is people would get money to just go out and eat and party with coworkers or clients. And they would also get cab money.
Yeah,
to go around. So
so
Japan is very different. Well, like if you can ask an old Japanese person what it was like living in the bubble era, they'll like have all these amazing
Dude, it was
stories
tits.
Of glamour.
It was great.
Like, just everyone spending money is like
glistening. We burned Ichimans for fun.
So almost all the stressful stuff you hear about Japan work now and like being paid poorly is now. But in the 80s, I heard like you could get a part-time job and be making the equivalent of like $5,000 US a month. So as a part-time gig. So everything was ludicrous. People were buying houses that were like for millions of dollars, and it all plummeted. And Japan now has a problem where housing prices don't go up. The land goes up, but you could buy a house and it's actually like a bad investment. But going back to the work culture thing, you were explaining how the good old days in Japan, maybe your senpai lived through the good old days.
Yeah.
But there's this thing where you could always climb a ladder in a Japanese company where you start out, you don't leave the company, you stay loyal, and you'll eventually hit like manager, director status in your 40s and 50s and just be making the most money.
Yeah.
So I have a friend whose dad worked at Nikon, the camera company, and he's in his 50s, maybe 60s right now, manager status. I think it was like an automatic manager status at age 40. So there's a problem in Nikon, what she told me, that there's so many managers, but not actually like enough workers.
It's a bunch of generals, but no soldiers. Yeah. There's like, who's going to do this? And then it's the one soldier, like intern, is like, I can do it. And then they get tasked with 800 things. And then there's like, he can't do all 800 things. And then he's like, why can't you do all 800 things? And then they're like, I can't deal with this. I'm going to kill myself. And then they just disappear. That's so freaking common. It sucks.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But they can't bully me though. So going back to that marketing firm I was working at, like a couple of people tried to bully me. Like one guy in front of everyone was like, what the fuck do you even do here? He called me on my bullshit, because I could barely read and write in Japanese, right? Like I gotten better, but like still. He said, you can't do anything that anyone else does. You can't even do the basic shit. And I was like, yeah, that's true, but no one can do what I do. And he was like, what? And I was just like, well, there's only 20 people in this company that speak English. There's only 5 that are fluent in English as a native tongue. 2 of them are old, and of the 3 that are left and young, I'm the youngest. I'm the one that's most fluent in Japanese. In terms of finding information, even Googling, like I think at the time it was like the Syrian refugees like going into Germany. I was like, can you look that up on Yahoo Japan? And he looked it up, and it said like maybe 13,000 hits. And then I looked it up on Google. It was over 5 million, right?
Jesus.
I was like, yeah, so I can read this and decipher it, tell you information that you can't find. And then he never bugged me after that.
He was like,
he got called out so hard.
As a Japanese person, I can't really imagine Google searching in Japanese and you only get Japanese results. So it's all filtered down. And you can't. Maybe now you can search for the English websites and then translate in Japanese. Maybe that's an option now. But
I thought ChatGPT was really gonna screw me up and also like help me more. But like whenever I use it for like translations and stuff like that, even DeepL, like it's still not quite there. Like I think it's a difference between like traditional like Roman languages and like Eastern. There's still a pretty big misunderstanding. Like I don't know about you, but when you translate or interpret, how much of it do you try to do directly versus you just kind of go with your gut? Because I always go with my gut. Like I always try to get the nuance across more than the actual words.
I do both sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, I can't be bothered with this. I'm going to directly translate it. Like this is a direct translation. But a lot of times when it's a person talking, trying to get information across to a Japanese person and vice versa, I do have to think about the nuances.
Yeah.
And okay, am I gonna use if somebody's like kind of angry in English, it's like, do I use desu and masu in like the polite Japanese, or do I use more of the harder Japanese? I end up usually just using the polite one because I'm the one saying it. So if I start saying like, oi kore yare yo mitaina, if I say like, hey, just do this, it sounds like it's coming from me.
Yeah, from me. Yeah. No.
So I do change things up so it's a little bit more like, well, he's saying that you gotta. It's hard to give an exact example, but yes, it's Japanese and English are so different that the emotions are even kind of different.
The way they're expressed is completely different.
That you might feel in Japanese versus English, and like the word usage.
I always say they're saying this, but they're saying it with the undertone of this.
Yes.
Yeah. That's usually how I
say, like,
explain
they're
stuff.
not mad, but they're saying
But
this.
they're definitely not fucking happy.
Right. I think American people are very good at just saying it like it is, and they're like, oh, we're frustrated that this isn't working. And so they're not mad, but they're showing frustration.
Yeah.
and we need to help get through this.
Yeah.
I think in Japanese, like, it's a language that emotions can be put into the words easier.
I think
with like dayo, or like, you know, dayo, ze, zo, or like daro.
Well, it's a high context language, right?
Is that what it? Japanese
that's
is
what it's called.
context.
It's a high context. Like, you
language.
have to know a lot of the nuances underneath it. English is extremely low context, right? But that's also why it's extremely efficient, or seen as efficient in some ways, shape, or form. Because
is efficient.
It's efficient because, hey, I'm frustrated with you because, right? There's no other way to say. Well, there's tons of other ways to say in English, but typically that's how they'll speak it, right? If it's Japanese, 最近はね。頑張ってると思うけど right? まあ最近はね頑張ってると思うけど based on completely different, like, where that person's coming from, right? I get that you're trying your best, but dude, I get that you're trying your best, but like, okay.
But one of them was like a little bit pissed, and one was like nice.
Yeah, nice, understanding, but like, you know. And then for kind of like a more explicit like example, I had a bid that I worked on for like a web renewal in Kyoto. Alex does not get clients in Kyoto.
Okay.
So up until now, I've primarily worked in Osaka at this marketing firm, stuff like that, right? And typically with Osaka, right, everyone's kind of going back to the Osaka Bang, right? Like, kind of everyone's kind of funny. They'll joke a little bit. And then if we're working with Tokyo clients, they're like, oh yeah, they're like loud and rowdy because Osaka makes sense, type of thing, right? Kyoto has no chill. In that they're
chill.
No, they're prim and proper, and that's fine because they're the old capital.
Why? Okay, so yeah, explain Kyoto people, right?
Yeah, Kyoto people.
It's kind of like Seattle has their
Seattle
that's a good
example.
freeze.
That's a good example. That's a really
Seattle
good example.
Freeze, for those who don't know, is if you're from Seattle, Washington. People are a little bit cold to new people who aren't from Seattle.
Yeah.
So Kyoto, in a very similar way, has a little bit of this like pride, and if you're not from Kyoto, they're like they're very nice to tourists.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's more so towards other Japanese people if you're not from Kyoto.
Yeah. No, they're ちょっと tengu.
Yeah, they have like
just a little bit. Or you know, as someone from Osaka, that's how it feels.
That's how it feels.
I know plenty of people from Kyoto that are cool as hell. Not most of them.
There's you can find on like. I saw this example explaining it. Kyoto people might not directly tell you that you're being a nuisance.
So that's what my story is about. So we have the client in Kyoto, and it's a marketing board. So we're like pitching to them, and then eventually at one point, one of the head directors, she goes, アレックスさんってとても元気ですね. I was like,
no.
Right? Now translate that directly.
とても元気ですね is like, oh, you're very lively, you're a very happy person.
And I was like, hell yeah, dude.
She means you're loud as fuck.
After we left the freaking meeting, I got slapped in the back of the head by my senpai. He's like, dude, we lost that bid because of you. I was like, you always said be myself. That's my biggest appeal. He's like, yeah, but not the Kyoto class. I was like, how the hell was I supposed to know that?
Yeah, I forgot you can actually hit each other. In Japanese businesses, people hit each other.
Especially Osaka, because Osaka, and that goes back to the old comedy of, the duo comedy of Tsukumi and like
essentially straight
Tsukumi,
straight man versus the non-straight man
versus the idiot. Yeah. So that was like in the beginning it was really hard, but I'm definitely more of like that kind of like aloof, like type of dude anyways. But my role, and my senpai was very blunt with me.
Yes.
He said, you're to so many people here, they're going to perceive you as an idiot. And that's still better than actually being an idiot. And I think that I don't think you are, but you need to use that to your advantage as much as possible. So he actually recommended to me, he said, don't, like, you should and can study Japanese still, but don't speak any more eloquently than you do now. Because then that will create this stereotype and wall that then you can break through easily. You can break expectations. It's the gap, right? Gap. The way that I was always introduced to meetings was Ito-san. So our team would always refer to me as Ito-san, right?
Okay.
And
your last name.
And by my last name. And then I come into the meeting with this client. They're like, who the f is this guy? I'm like, oh, I'm Ito. They're like, huh? Oh, really? So immediately they're thrown off their game. You know, they're like, wait a second, what?
Gaikokuji.
Yeah. And then
we have a foreigner.
They're like, are you Japanese? I'm like, oh, no, ichio, and which means like, yeah, kinda.
Yeah. Ichio, foreigner.
Yeah.
And that is an icebreaker, though. A lot of times it does help in business because people are like, oh, like I'm interested in this person now.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times maybe mixed Japanese people do feel like they maybe have to do a bit.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Because the questions that are asked is very similar. Sometimes it becomes like, oh, you know, how did your parents meet? Which one is Japanese? And then like you go into your whole life story, so you kind of like just get used to making things into gags and jokes.
Yeah, and the thing is, I had to do that in the States too, because where I grew up, there was no other Japanese kids. I wasn't considered black in the States. I was Toshiba. Like,
you were Toshiba?
Yeah, I was Toshiba. Yeah. Toshiba came from a man named Clifford, known racist and my mortal enemy of 6th grade. Having said that, one of the smartest guys I ever met.
You're Toshiba.
Yeah, he we ended up becoming very good friends in middle school. He you know, like very hard lifestyle, like diabetic as like a young guy and everything like that. And like where we grew up wasn't the greatest. He ended up being a very, very kind person, but the name stuck. But I still remember to this day when I went back home, I kind of like was tearing up. I went back to my mom and I was like, you know, they're calling me Toshiba at school, and she's like, why? I said, because I'm Japanese. And then she was like, no, why are they calling you Toshiba? Nande Toshibaって言われたの? She's like, why Toshiba? And I was like, because I'm Japanese. And she's like, Sony is so much funnier. And then I was like, what? She's like, yeah, shorter name, better company. You look like Sony. You should tell them to call you Sony instead.
Your mom is the GOAT.
Yeah, no, my mom was like, dude, kids know you. That's cool.
Right.
You're a cool, like, at least kids know you. What about that kid that you don't know? And then I was like, who? And she's like, exactly. And then, so she was just like, stop, sticks and stones, like, shut up. And
so I was like, that was her perspective. It's like, yeah, hey, they know you. And you ended up being friends with the guy.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and I ended up being friends with the guy, yeah. So
I can imagine that being very hard for some people, though. Like, it's sad. For a lot of mixed Japanese people, I know it's, like, hard.
Yeah, which is why, you know, I was going back to, like, everyone has to figure out their way to deal with it.
What you said, though, earlier about, Alex wa totemo genki desu ne. Like, you're a very like lively person is the most Kyoto passive aggressive thing for like you're very loud. And
yeah, it's like wow, you should shut up. And I was like,
they'll also be like they'll say that about children as well. Like like your kids are so loud. I can hear them like always talking and they're not loud. They sound lively and like they have so much fun. Or something like that. Your kids are loud and they need to shut up.
Yeah.
But for people watching this and who want to actually visit Kyoto or like, it's actually, I wouldn't worry about this too much. I think everyone who's a tourist gets a pass. This is the thing, because you're Japanese. We talked about this before. Nihonjin dakara, you have more standards that you're upheld to.
Yeah.
If you're just visiting, you're a guest in the country, and a lot of Japanese people have this idea of you're a guest. So. Like they're not gonna know how to do things right.
Yeah.
Like we should help them, and
like even having said that though, it's like podcasts. Like I saw your stuff before I met you. Remember, like I saw your stuff in college. So like I like quoted you a couple of times in my senior thesis.
Quoted? I didn't know you quoted me.
Yeah, of course.
Can you? Yeah. What
dude,
is the story
I don't know.
In your senior thesis?
I don't know where that was, man.
No, dude, I have a Max quote.
Dude, I was a psych major, and then I found out that you actually have to do research and like run tests to like get a psych major. So I like switched to anthro at the last second and just basically wrote a diary. I was like, it's hard being Blasian. If I say the N-word, people get kind of weirded out, but I have to say it or they won't believe me.
you say it, they won't believe, and they're like, "Oh,
I got a B+."
I wonder, does that feel like you had to like show that you're black in that way?
It's that identity thing, right? Of where at least. In terms of my upbringing, being black was such a negative thing for so long. Where like my dad went to prison at one point. Lovely dad, great father, terrible husband, questionable person.
I see a lot of more black Japanese, meaning like half Japanese, half black people in Tokyo now, like more than ever.
It's because they're not ashamed of them now. It's trendy. Dude, when I was
Yeah.
born, my mom cut off so many people because so many of her friends. I mean, she was a young mom too, but so many of her friends went, "Ah, そんな黒くなくてよかったね." Oh, you're lucky he's not that dark.
It's a
and like
crazy
I
thing to
like
say.
I don't, apparently I don't remember this, but my mom said there was at one point in preschool I was washing my hands. Like everyone had left, and I kept washing my hands because the other kids kept saying that my hands are still dirty, like there's still dirt.
Is this
on my
in
hands.
America or Japan?
This is in Japan.
You went to school in Japan?
I went to preschool in Japan
okay.
for a little bit, and then I just kept washing my hands to the point where I got like eczema apparently.
Ah, Jesus.
Yeah. And like since my dad was in the military, I didn't see my father. I didn't recognize a guy as my dad until I was like 3 or 4. So I thought I was just Japanese through and through. Like, why am I brown? And then my grandpa, R.I.P., in his infinite sense of humor, humor and wisdom, he was just like, you don't like, you're not a grandkid. Like, your mom found you at the Tama River. You're probably Filipino. That's why I don't want to do 23andMe. Watch me not be half black.
Yeah.
I said the N word so many times.
Like, I can't say it anymore.
Dude, no, I'm gonna get pre-cant. Like, I'm dead.
You're dead.
Freaking dead, dude.
I'm actually Filipino.
Dude, yeah.
Being Blasian in Japan, what is that like in the dating scene?
In the dating scene, I'm not sure because I think everyone handles it differently. I like pass as more Asian. In a group full of Japanese people, I'm the blackest dude there is. If it's a bunch of other black people, what's that Asian guy doing there, right? So, like, I've been told by other black mixed people, by Japanese people, right, that they're like, like, 黒人のハーフに結構薄いね. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yeah,
like,
watch your tongue. Watch your profanity.
I feel like even with like you got the chonmage going on, like if you like if you no, but if you wore like a kimono, you would look like samurai.
I look hella samurai.
You're just like a samurai that trains outside.
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
He's dark.
Man, he's
and
dark.
You got that Hiroyuki Sanada.
I'm a dark Japanese guy.
Are you seen as cool now because you're black specifically? Is black?
Oh yeah,
is black cool in Japan?
Black is cool. It's trendy. That's why I love that movie Get Out. You've seen Get Out, right?
No, I love.
Remember when the one Asian guy is clearly Japanese? What do you think about the black experience in America? I was like, this dude is Japanese as shit.
A Japanese guy would ask that too.
That would be a Japanese guy.
Yeah.
Dude, his accent, I was like, I was just like, fuck. No, because okay, so I can't say which video game company, but I've met a senior video game director, art director for a major like company, and I was trying to teach them like about cultural appropriation and stuff like that, yada yada, because they're like this is happening all around the world. Like should voice actors be the ethnicity of the character that they're playing, yada yada. Like there's all this like right. And then he was just like because like when we design black characters, like I think. And he said it like this, なんか生物としてさ、なんか本当に存在として素敵な生き物だと思うんだよね。And I was like, ooh. Now what did he say? So he said as a subject, as like a specimen, like the black specimen is wonderful. They have strong teeth, big muscles. Like we tried to create them off of these characteristics that we love and cherish and like respect, right? And I'm like,
it's funny,
so close, like, so close.
Yeah, we respect
missed it.
We're making them strong, but why are you saying ikimono toshite?
Yeah,
toshite?
I was like, God damn, that was so close. God. Look at this fucking beast.
Anyway, we talked a lot about what it's like to live and work in Japan. I don't think there's anything else I want to go into, but we could always do another podcast, and maybe we missed something. If you have any comments or questions, if you're watching this podcast about working and living in Japan, just drop it in here. Alex or I could always reply. And also, if you're watching this, make sure to check out my Patreon or become a member on my YouTube channel, because support means a lot to me, and it helps me actually make these videos so that I can actually keep pumping them out as I do, or as I try to do. So definitely check out Patreon. Alex, where can people find you if they want to commission some art or to have a translator?
They can find me on Insta at Alexander_ITO_. Pretty basic. It'll be like a doodle drawing of me.
Yes.
Maybe by then I'll have like a channel or something. Who knows?
Yes.
Make me go viral in the worst way possible.
Make him go viral.
Yeah. Fuck it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Alex. And,
thank you so much, man.
We'll see you guys in the next podcast.